One of the most infamous outlaw biker clubs today is the Pagan's MC, often just called the Pagans. While not officially labeled as an outlaw group by law enforcement, their reputation speaks for itself. The Pagans got their start back in 1957, founded by Lou Dobkin, with just 13 members in Prince George's County, Maryland. Their official motorcycle club activities kicked off around 1958 to 59. At first, things were pretty chill, and the club was relatively peaceful throughout the 1960s. But as they grew, they shifted towards the typical outlaw motorcycle gang OMG style. A big reason for this change was the influx of military veterans joining the club, many of whom carried a lot of anger and frustration towards the government. The Pagans MC is one of the most infamous outlaw motorcycle clubs out there. They're known for their unique history, rapid growth, and, let's be honest, their bad boy reputation. Fun fact, the Pagans president used to get paid the same salary as the US president. Pretty wild, right? Back in the early 60s, their first president, John Sedan, who came from the Sons of Satan MC, made about $100,000 a year to lead the club. In the early days, the Pagans didn't quite fit the typical biker image. Instead of Harley Davidsons, they rode Triumphs. And instead of the leather biker jackets with patches we think of today, they sported blue denim jackets with embroidery. As they grew, Harley Davidsons became the go-to bike, and their jackets switched to the iconic patched-up look. Oh, and they were the ones who created the famous diamond-shaped 1% patch that's now a badge for outlaw MCs everywhere. The term 1% comes from an old AMA claim that 99% of bikers were law-abiding, leaving the other 1% as the wild ones. The Pagans took the label and ran with it. Interestingly, the Pagans are one of the few outlaw clubs that don't enforce strict racial rules. While most MCs stick to being mostly white, the Pagans have included Latino members too. This policy isn't popular with everyone in the club, but no one's allowed to question the rules set by the founders. Today, the Pagans are growing fast, with over 1,300 members across 100-plus chapters, even reaching Puerto Rico. In New Jersey alone, they've got 300 members, and law enforcement is starting to get pretty nervous, calling the group a public safety threat. When questioned in court about violent activities, their leaders invoked the Fifth Amendment, simply stating that breaking the law isn't part of their official club policy. How's that for dodging a question? One of the most infamous ex-members is Wayne Big Chuck Bradshaw. Once a loyal pagan, he eventually left the club and became an undercover cop. Talk about a plot twist. He later built a long, decorated career as a police officer, proving that not every pagan is locked into the outlaw life. The Pagans hold weekly meetings called church, where attendance is mandatory, much like Sunday Mass for the devout. These gatherings highlight how the club operates under its own set of rules, answering to no one else. As they've grown, the Pagans have absorbed smaller MCs in their area, using a mix of pressure and persuasion. This expansion isn't just from new recruits, it's a strategic power move. But the club's darker side is hard to ignore. They've been linked to violent incidents, including the rumored murders of members who switched allegiance to the rival Hells Angels. Loyalty is everything in these clubs, and switching sides is considered the ultimate betrayal. One such murder happened in 2005 when a new Hells Angels recruit was killed, though the case remains unsolved. And when it comes to women, the Pagans, like many outlaw MCs, treat them as second-class members. Women are often referred to as property or pets, reflecting the deeply traditional and misogynistic culture of many motorcycle clubs. While it's a harsh reality, the reasoning is that the women involved supposedly choose this lifestyle and agree to its rules. The Pagans MC has built a reputation as one of the most notorious outlaw motorcycle clubs in the world, and it doesn't seem like they're slowing down anytime soon. The Pagans MC has a distinct approach when it comes to women in the club. Female partners of members wear special property of patches that include their partner's name, showing they were claimed by a specific pagan. Along with this, women might sport other coded patches, like the famous 1% diamond that signifies the club's outlaw status, rejecting the rules of the AMA. There are other number patches too. For instance, the number 7 honors a fallen member, while the number 5 patch signals Nazi affiliations, a controversial aspect of their history. Forget traditional chapters. Pagans believe they rule the entire East Coast, and their bottom rocker patch now boldly says just that, East Coast. They didn't always have a bottom rocker though. Early on, they avoided it as part of their independent code, refusing to reveal their city or state to outsiders, especially law enforcement. This was their way of giving the authorities the finger, but now they openly declare their dominance over the entire East Coast through their patches. The club's main patch, featuring the Norse fire giant Surtur, called Cuss by the Pagans, sitting on a flaming world and wielding a fire sword, is iconic. It's paired with the word Pagans, written in bold red, white, and blue. Interestingly, this patch design isn't taken from Norse mythology, but from a 1963 illustration by comic book artist Jack Kirby in Journey into Mystery, issue 97. The fire giant reflects the club's fiery and destructive reputation, and their unofficial motto, "Live Pagan, Die Pagan," reinforces their all-or-nothing loyalty. Through the 1970s and 1990s, the Pagans expanded their influence by absorbing smaller MCs, a process they call patching over. This aggressive takeover method allowed them to grow quickly, folding in weaker clubs to expand their reach. Even now, they're notorious for incorporating smaller 1% clubs to cement their dominance. The Pagans aren't without their dark history of violence. Their rivalry with the Hells Angels and their own criminal activities have made them a serious target for law enforcement. For example, Canadian authorities have labeled Hells Angels as particularly violent, but the Pagans are hardly innocent themselves. There are even grim tales like the 1998 deathbed confession of former Pagan Paul Branch, who claimed responsibility for the murder of Billy Gibson, a Florida woman who disappeared 24 years earlier. According to Branch, her body was dumped in the Everglades, but it's never been found, and their violent reputation continues. On May 15, 2021, a bar fight erupted between Pagans and locals at Stripes Bar and Grill in Florida. Incidents like these keep the Pagans' name in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons, making it clear they're not a group to cross. Whether it's through their patches, their motto, or their take-no-prisoners approach to territory, the Pagans MC has cemented itself as one of the most feared and notorious motorcycle clubs on the East Coast. The Pagans MC has a history filled with explosive incidents and violent confrontations, solidifying their reputation as one of the most dangerous outlaw motorcycle clubs in the U.S. Just 2 days after a brawl at Stripes Bar in Florida, a wealthy urban biker's motorcycle was torched outside the same bar. The Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office got involved, leading to at least 5 arrests or warrants issued for Pagans and locals. In 1985, their leader at the time, Daniel "Danny the Deacon" Zwibble, faced RICO charges alongside fellow Pagans James Burke and Eugene "Nick the Blade" Swale, famously tied to the Pittsburgh drug network that inspired parts of Goodfellas. Decades later, on December 9, 2020, a federal grand jury in Pittsburgh indicted 30 Pagans members and associates on charges of narcotics trafficking and illegal firearm possession. Authorities seized 12 guns, a stash of drugs, and $288,000 in cash and jewelry during the bust. The list of those charged read like a roll call of the club's inner circle. The Pagans' aggressive expansion often leads to violent clashes. At a 2018 charity fundraiser hosted by the Tri-County MC in Hackettstown, New Jersey, 8 Pagans showed up to intimidate local clubs into aligning with them and resisting the Hells Angels' growing presence. What started as a fistfight quickly escalated to knives and guns, leaving 2 Pagans, Glenn Ritchie and Diego Vega, dead. Other casualties included gunshot injuries to Pagan Ron Locke and a Tri-County member, while another Tri-County member, Hank Ryer, had his throat slashed. That same year, Pagan member Robert Hellboy Donon was sentenced to 4 years in prison for beating Hells Angels member Jeffrey Shank with a baseball bat at a Newark gas station. In February 2021, their national president, Keith Conan Richter, was arrested after police found a loaded gun during a vehicle stop in East Windsor, New Jersey. The Pagans have long-standing tensions with the Hells Angels, often erupting into public violence. In 2002, 73 Pagans stormed the Hellraiser Ball, a tattoo and motorcycle expo on Long Island, aiming to confront the Hells Angels. Chaos broke out as the Pagans clashed with the Angels, leading to 10 injuries and the death of a Pagan member from a gunshot wound. Shortly after, a Pagan-owned tattoo parlor in South Philadelphia was firebombed in retaliation. In 2005, the Pagans struck back, allegedly shooting and killing the vice president of the Hells Angels Philadelphia chapter while he was driving on the Schuylkill Expressway. Later that year, the Angels shut down their Philadelphia chapter entirely, marking a significant territorial win for the Pagans. The violence didn't stop there. In 2010, 19 Pagans were arrested in Rocky Point, New York, for allegedly conspiring to murder Hells Angels members. The charges ranged from assault to cocaine and oxycodone trafficking, extortion, and weapons offenses. In a shocking twist, 2 undercover ATF agents had infiltrated the club, with one even rising to the position of sergeant-at-arms, second in command. The agents provided key evidence of the Pagans plotting to use homemade grenades to take out Hells Angels members. From turf wars to courtrooms, the Pagans MC remains at the center of a web of violence, criminal activity, and power plays. Their history shows that they're not just a motorcycle club. They're a force willing to go to any lengths to defend their territory and reputation. The Pagans MC has seen its fair share of law enforcement crackdowns over the years, with dramatic arrests and major busts adding to their infamy. One standout incident happened on May 9, 2006, when over 60 officers, including federal agents and a bomb squad with a disposal robot, descended on J. Carl Wagner's residence in Washington County, Maryland. The raid uncovered a small arsenal, 7 handguns, 13 rifles, and 2 suspected explosive devices. Wagner, previously convicted of a violent crime, was charged with illegal firearm possession. He pleaded guilty in March 2018 and was sentenced to 30 months in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. In another high-profile bust, police raided the home of David Bart Barbido, the Pagans' national president, in Myersville, Maryland, on October 6, 2009. Barbido faced firearms charges and eventually pleaded guilty to racketeering and other offenses. By June 2010, he was sentenced to 30 months behind bars. The scope of the Pagans' operations has prompted massive multi-state crackdowns. In 2009, a major sweep led to the arrest of 55 Pagans members and associates from states including West Virginia, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and Florida. The charges were heavy: attempted murder, kidnapping, drug dealing, and conspiracy. At least 7 defendants in that case pleaded guilty. The busts haven't stopped there. In 2018, Rhode Island authorities launched the state's largest ever takedown, arresting 49 people, including several Pagans members. After a year-long investigation involving the Rhode Island State Police, the FBI, and the ATF, officers seized 53 illegal firearms, one of which was a rocket launcher, alongside large quantities of marijuana, heroin, and crack cocaine. These arrests underscore the extensive criminal network tied to the Pagans MC, ranging from weapons trafficking to organized drug operations. Despite the ongoing crackdowns, the club remains active, notorious, and unrelenting in its outlaw lifestyle.